of you from the past, and I've been around doing this kind of stuff for a long time, probably about 45 years. And I was mostly doing work as a trainer, working out of the fitness center and that sort of thing for the longest time. And I worked out probably 15,000, 16,000 people throughout the valley. But I decided to go back to school in 2015. And the reason why was because I didn't think wellness was enough. And I wanted to stay in the field. I really enjoyed it. But the problem I was having was that no matter what you do for everybody, they don't adhere to programs. They don't adhere to diets. They don't adhere to workout programs unless you enforce it all the time. They have a real tough time with stress, and that's something that's not generally addressed by most of the social rec fitness centers like In Shape or CrossFit. And so I wanted to kind of, in my mind, hook it all together and figure out how I could change my venue so that I could get people to be involved a lot more in a different kind of lifestyle as healthy. And what kind of pushed me that way was there's a big alarming statistic, and that is as more nations become modern, like the United States, the more we suffer from the pandemic of chronic disease. Okay, so the number one killer in the United States, obviously, you know what it is, it's heart attack, heart disease. Okay, number 2 is cancer. Number 3 is stroke. Number 4 is diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Number 5 is osteoporosis. Number 6 is Alzheimer's. Number 7 is all forms of arthritis. Then you have on the top list of 10, you have what's called functional gastrointestinal diseases. You have fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. And at the end of it, you have something called obesity, which is a disease. And along with it, something called metabolic syndrome. And those are the 10 things that will kill all of us, 99.9% of us. And what's interesting about the statistic is that no matter what you do, no matter what you diet, on what you diet on, what supplements you take, how much exercise, what kind of exercise you do, doesn't matter. All of us at one point or another will suffer from one or more of those diseases and either be very uncomfortable suffering through it, which will decrease the quality of our living, or it will kill us. And that's the end of that story. Okay? Or so I thought. So anyway, so as I started into my doctoral program, I wanted to see if there was a common cause. Okay? I mean, here I am trying to work people out, and people work out for a lot of different reasons. But the thing that I found out is the people that will work out are the people that are already interested in working out. I can't get people that are really not interested in that lifestyle to work out for any length of time or with any degree of success. And so these people bounce from program to program. Or on diets. Okay? 95% of the people who diet fail within the first year. Of the 5% that succeed, 95% fail in the second year. I mean, it's terrible. You can't do anything right. Okay? So why? Why is that? So I started looking through, and I was exploring all this stuff in my dissertation topic. And I discovered that, first of all, the chronic diseases all have a common basis. They all have a common reason. Right? And that reason is stress. Pure and simple. It's stress. Let me ask you this question. How bad is stress today in this culture, in our world? It's huge. It's worse than it's ever been. Okay, why? Why? The first reason is because of technology. You all have these things. You live by these things. Okay? What does this do? It brings all the information of the world, usually the bad stuff, into your head and heart every second of your life. Okay? There is really something to be said about ignorance being bliss. Because when you're bombarded with this much information all the time, and you live through the stress of everyday existence in a very time-pressed society as we do now, you're incredibly stressed. Okay? And this is what's interesting. When I looked and I found that stress is the common cause of all of these problems. First, let me tell you about the mechanics of it. What happens is, when you initially feel stress, it impacts you in the cell. At the cellular level, you have 650 trillion cells in your body. And it impacts you first in the cell. what it does is there's a little thing called a transcription factor. It's part of the immune system, and it creates heat. It's called NF-kappa B. And when you feel any kind of stress, whether it's physical stress, emotional stress, whatever it is, these things charge up and create heat in the cell. The problem is that they're designed like you're designed to deal with acute stressors, short-term stress, okay? Not stress that keeps coming after you every single day, like you gotta get up this morning, you gotta get your kids ready, you gotta get to work, you gotta do this, you got these bills to pay, you gotta et cetera, et cetera. And on top of that, we've got the world going to pot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, okay? So when you're experiencing all this, it isn't the momentary stress that you feel like as we were designed, but it's rather this stuff builds on each other. And so what happens is in this lifestyle that we're living, the stress level at the cellular level continues to increase unabated for 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years, that's all. And at that point, it becomes systemic. What does that mean? It means it's throughout your whole body. Okay? Stress throughout your body within 2 to 3 years is detectable by a test called CRP, C-reactive protein. So your doctor can now see if you're really stressed. They can't see the cellular level of stress, but they can see the systemic level. By then, it's too late. Okay? That's when your body reacts to save itself. So what does it do? It does things like pushes you towards foods that are nutritionally low, calorically high, because they're hypoglycemic and sugary, and they make you feel better for 15, 20 minutes. Okay? Also, it pushes you towards food like that because it's fast food. You're too rushed to spend time eating and focusing on eating. Like right now, this is tough to do. You're eating and you're listening to me. That's very distracting. Okay? And so every element of your life becomes involved in nurturing this chronic stress that's eating away at you. When it becomes systemic, it becomes very difficult to build muscle mass. It becomes very easy to build fat mass. Okay? So what does that mean? It means that when you go to sleep, if you're chronically stressed like most of us are, your body eats away at the muscle mass. It actually dissolves connective tissue and muscle mass and converts it to sugar, which brings on the PAMS, which slows your metabolism, which makes it even worse. So you accumulate more sugar and more fat. Okay? And so then I start thinking about this. I think, okay, it's been estimated that 95% of us are suffering from our chronic exposure to stress, which then makes sense because it leads to the diseases that kill all of us. Okay? But even before that, like right now, if you're sitting here and if you're not already designated as a person who has one or more of these diseases, I'm here to tell you that you all have the symptoms of every one of these diseases. It's a matter of which one will appear when. Okay? All of us, whether you're 20 years old or 80 years old, we all have it. Okay? So, okay, let me keep going. So anyway, within this stressful lifestyle, it becomes apparent to me that you can't just exercise and do it with stress, or eat right and think you're going to do it with stress, or even sustain it because you're already stressed. That's why most of us fail. That's why most of us aren't motivated over a long period of time to continue with this thing. Okay? You realize that when you have passion for something, it's not work, right? I know, in my field, this is what I love doing. It's not work. I'll work 18, 20 hours a day. It's no big deal. Okay? And so, if you have passion, you can overcome this stuff. Okay? So I was thinking to myself, so how can I find the passion for people to instill it in them, or to rather let them feel that again? So they'll say, boy, I'm understanding why I feel the way I do, and why I'm unable to do the right things to live a better life, physically, emotionally, mentally, because I am chronically stressed all the time. So the first thing is the knowledge of knowing where you're at and why. The second thing is to figuring out what to do about it. So I kept doing a lot more exploring, read a ton of books and everything, talked to a whole lot of people, and I discovered something interesting. So now let's talk about history. About 12,000 years ago, we didn't have something called civilization. Okay? 12,000 years ago, most of our ancestors lived in the African savanna. There were little elements of us all but the primary concentration of humanity lived in the African savanna. Okay? What's prominent about the African savanna? They're super predators. Okay? Back then, 12,000 years ago, we were about 4 feet tall. We were little guys. We liked living in trees because when you're defenseless, it's best to live off the ground in great numbers. Right? That makes sense. Okay? But as the climate changed, the trees withdrew and was replaced by tall savanna grass. So we had to come to the ground. Well, if you're 4 feet tall and weigh 90 pounds and you're up against a saber-tooth tiger or something that's 500 or 600 pounds, you're easy prey. So what we did was we started out of necessity to develop ways to survive and thrive. So we weren't victimized. Okay? Now this is what's interesting. Back then, you only worried about two things: how to make it through the next 24 hours, and how to get food and shelter so you can survive within your small band hunter-gatherer tribes that consisted of no more than 100 to 150 people. That's it. That's what you did. So what happened was you learned the techniques necessary for groups of people to work together, hunt down predator and protect yourself from him, and you learned to appreciate everything you did with your family and your friends and your neighbors. Get what I'm saying? You acculturated within the tribe. You appreciated the guy next to you because you might go out and hunt together and you guys depend on each other for living. Okay? So you valued everything. So diversity was really valued. Women were treated equally as men. Okay? They all contributed something to the existence and the thrivability of the tribe. So what happened was humans lived very, very well. The well-being quotient of people living back then was much higher than it is now. Much higher. They were active because they had to be active, because they had to be fit in order to survive. Okay? So everything was a must-do. And that's where we're forced to be, because humans are generally designed to be lazy. Okay? That's why we accumulate fat much faster than muscle. When I got injured 25 years ago, I was about 174, 175, and maybe 6-7% body fat. I was paralyzed from the middle of my chest down. I didn't move at all for 2 weeks, and I lost 68 pounds of muscle in 2 weeks. That's how dynamic muscle is. Fat isn't dynamic at all. It's hard to get rid of it. Okay? And so what I'm saying is the lifestyle back then defined our well-being. Now move forward in the civilization. Okay? Now I got a whole different set of rules. Instead of 100 people, you got thousands of people. How do you feed them? How do you handle their housing? How do you do all that? So instead of living the lifestyle that evolved for 2 million years of our existence, we were pushed to live a new lifestyle of short-term deductive reasoning in order to be able to exist as groups. So what happened then was we automatically used left brain instead of both brains. We started using left brain. Okay? And left brain is great at problem solving, but it's all short-term stuff. We figure out what to do, we do it, we solve it, we move on to something else. Doesn't that sound like modernity? I mean, doesn't that sound like the way we live now? You got a business. What's a business do? It's designed to make money. Why? You got somebody at the top that needs to make the money, to have the insight to see that a business fills a need. So within that hierarchy that he sets up, he's got a group of people. The ones that are most valuable that help his business go are this status, and so on and so forth. So now you have an operational managerial hierarchy. We weren't designed to do that. We're designed to live egalitarianism, which means that everybody's equal, everybody has a say-so, everybody can decide what to do. But you can't do that if you're running a business. You can't do that when you're running a society. The problem with that is it's self-destructive. Okay? We don't live in concert with nature. We don't live in balance anymore. I'll give you an example. Native Americans, what do? How many buffalo did it take to feed the village? 1. They killed a buffalo. They appreciated with gratitude the creator, the buffalo, and used every part of the buffalo to feed and clothe the village. Okay? Then what did the white man do? He killed them all, just for the fur. Okay? That's the way we live now. We live in a destructive environment. Whether it's good or bad, that's the way we are. So I thought, okay, so now I'm getting it. Because how can I introduce elements of the way we used to live in order to initiate the motivation to live that lifestyle within your lifestyle now and mitigate the problems that you face. That's the answer. That's what I got to solve, okay? Then I can motivate everybody. So I did some more research. Neurologically, when we evolved, we developed 3 sections to your brain. And the last section of what's called the triune brain focuses on an area right behind your forehead and behind your eyes. And that area is called the prefrontal cortex. Okay? And in that area are 9 focused, concentrated areas that during the time